Hey everybody, how are you? It's Audrey. Thanks for stopping by today. This is the last week of my Summer Scrapping Series. So today is day 15, starting off this week in August with my special guest today, Rebecca Kepple. Rebecca has a ton of different types of videos on her channel, crafts, all kinds of things. So please go check out her channel. So today I am using this cut file that I really wanted to use last week. I did my series in July, and it is from Confessions of a Paper Addict, and I will link to the file below. And it's called Waves, and I just love the flow of these waves and the swirly lines. So I'm going to, I'm just kind of sizing up how big I'm going to cut my files here. So I drew in two squares that are the size of my photos. I have two 3x3 photos, and when I draw these squares I just use the lines on the grid because I know each of those lines is an inch. I just use those lines on the grid to help me draw my squares, and then that helps me size my files to the correct size. So one of my goals today was also to use this collection from Basic Gray. It's an old one. I looked at the tag at the bottom, the barcode is 2012. It's called Soleil, and I just love this collection so much, the colors in it. I'm pretty sure some of the designers, if you look, it reminds me of some of the old Sassafras Lass papers and patterns a little bit, so I don't know if that had any connection or whatever, but anyway, very fun collection. And I have a lot of 2 or 3 pieces that are still the solid pieces. So I'm going to use one of those as the background today. And that's kind of this lavender color. It's a very, very light lavender color. So I'm going to spruce up the purple a little bit more. I've been using a lot of purple lately, which I never used to do, but I love this kind of lavender plum color, and purple is so good for summer photos too, because when you have pictures like I do here with lots of blue in them with like water, I just love the way the purple and the blue look together. Okay, so you may have seen my cutting mat moving up there in the top right corner too. Those are my wave cut files cutting, and I'm just going to go through with some purple. I think this is shimmers, and I'm just using the packaging technique. I do not know what this color is called. I think it's plum something, I'm not really sure. And then I'm going to go back with, this is Distress Oxide ink, also in a purple. I'm not very good at remembering the names of these colors. I just know it's a purple or it's a yellow or it's a blue. And then I go back through with another shimmers and gonna just splatter some purple around. And I decided that I wanted a few other colors too, so I'm going to go back through with some pinks and do some splatters of pinks, and I think I do a couple splatters of teal, or navy here. This is a navy, and then maybe teal. I don't know. I was trying to pick up on the colors and in the pattern papers, so maybe I don't do the teal. Maybe I should have, because it would have looked pretty. Okay, so my wave files have cut out, and I don't want to leave them white. I'm going to paint them, and sometimes I leave my cut files on my cutting mat when I'm going to paint them and gesso them, but this was so intricate of a design that I was afraid that if I painted over it when it was still on the cutting mat, that it would be very difficult to peel off. So I'm just going to go over it with a little bit of gesso here on my work surface, or on my craft mat, and let that dry. So this is just a light coat of gesso. It's it's a very thin cut file, so adding water to it is not gonna be really good for it if you don't add gesso. So while those are drying, I just started to go through some of the embellishments I had to see if anything I had was going to work on the page. And I have a couple sticker sheets and this whole collection of die cuts and ephemera, and there were a lot of great sayings that went very well with swimming pictures. Some of them were like ocean, and we're in a lake, and that's one thing that bothers me about a lot of the summer collections. Are all ocean based and not very many that have to do with lakes, you know, because the lake is not salt water, so anything that says salty or things like that I can't really use, but there were quite a few things I used in this die cut pack. So these cut files have dried, the gesso dried, and I'm going to go back. I'm just going to add some touches of blue. There's not a ton of blue in this line. You can see the paper that's to my left right now by my left hand, there's a little bit of blue there, And it's very similar to the color blue that is in the Shimmers ink I'm using here. And I'm going to go back through with a little bit more teal too, just to add a little bit more pop. And I'm not covering this whole thing, I'm just going over it really lightly and just wanted to give it a little light wash of blue. And then I had to wait for that to dry. I love this cut file so much, just the flow of it and the form. It's really pretty. So I was debating what to do with this cut file, if I should just leave it as is or if I should back it. So I'm going to put it on the page here. I really love how that looks, and I love how the edge of it overlaps my photos a little bit, because the edge, it just, I don't know, it's just a nice place to tuck a photo. So I thought, because, you know, I'm really trying to use this paper collection, that I think I'm going to go through and add some paper behind that cut file too. Before I do that, I decided too that I wanted to add a little bit more sparkle in the background. So I'm using this paste also from Shimmers. It's called Sponge Sugar, and it just adds a really nice sheen. At the end, I thought maybe I could put some sequins on, but I had this paste that adds a really nice sheen, so I didn't need to add sequins at the end. And this dries kind of clear, so I definitely didn't want anything that had more color, because I was afraid that it would take away from the colors that I already had going on. Oh yeah, white splatters. I do a few white splatters. Okay, now I'm going to wait for that to dry, and in the meantime, I'm going to start backing this cut file. I am not going to show you this whole process because it takes me quite a while. I would say this probably took me at least an hour just to go through, and even just these little pieces, and I don't do the whole thing. Gosh, if I did the whole thing, it would have taken me hours, I think. Although it does get easier as you go, because the first couple ones you have to, you know, really fill in the shape perfectly. But as you go and you overlap paper that's already there, you don't have to cut, you know, to match the shape, if that makes any sense, if you follow me. But so my technique is I glue the paper on without cutting it out to shape first, and then I trim around it once it's dry. I know other people cut out the shapes first and then glue them on. Some people actually use their machines and cut out the negative spaces, and that's just smart, I think. But with a page like this, I would have had to make so many different cuts because I use so many different pattern papers. So this just works for me. It's just the way I'm used to doing it. So that took a while. Look at how beautifully that paste dried on there to give that beautiful sheen. And I love the way these looks, because I did not want to add too much color in the background on these cut files. There's a few pops of like a kind of a yellowish orangey color, and mostly purple and some whites with a little peak of blue, little like light navy. So that came out, I love it. I just love the colors. So going through this pack here, I picked up some of the things that actually had red and this bright pink in there, because just to add a little bit more contrast, because it was very pastel with just the purple and the blues. So, and I don't want to embellish too much on this page, because I think the cut file adds most of the interest on the page, so I don't need too many embellishments. So these photos, speaking of summer photos, the kids think it's just awesome when we get to go out. What am I doing? I don't know. Oh, I know. I'm looking for a die cut that I know I had taken out of the package, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I was looking all over for it, picking things up. I found it later. It was on the floor, of course. Anyway, the kids love to go out into the middle of the lake and jump off the boat, and they think it's super special when they can take their life jackets off out there, now that they're better swimmers, and jump in the lake. And it does kind of feel weird when you're way out there in the middle of the lake, there's nothing else around, and you're just swimming in the water, and it's a little bit colder. But so anyway, I love the color of the water in these pictures, and they look cute out there swimming, and it just looks like they're in this big abyss of water. So that's it. So I added a few strips of washi tape which comes in like this sheet that came in this collection. To the top and the bottom of the photos, you see I added some more pops of yellow, and I did more layering of some of the die cuts to the right of the photos, and I'm really not going to do too much more than that, I think. I did want to add a title. I didn't want to add anything that would be too big to take away from the design, so it's just going to say lake in bigger letters. And I kind of like that. Oh, I got some of that, and my son's photo there in the bottom, you can see I have a little mark of that paste, the Shimmer's paste I got in the photo, and I couldn't get it off, and it was driving me nuts, but it doesn't bother me enough for me to have to go print another picture. So it's just going to stay. I'll pretend it's part of the design. Okay, so I'm going to glue these letters on. I don't think I've glued anything else on yet. No, I'm going to go through, pop these off with some pop dots. I love with cut files like that have a lot of spaces to put pattern papers. When you only do a couple pattern papers, how you can see the background of your background paper through some of the open cuts, and I especially love the purple on this one. So again, the rest I think is just gluing maybe, and yeah, I'm not really doing too much more here. Cut files really help me, I think, design a page a lot easier. I find that because I use them so much and so frequently now, that when I do a page without cut files, I sometimes have a hard time with the design, because a cut file takes up, with like this page, for example, the cut file element takes up so much of the page that when I don't use a cut file, I'm like, okay, what am I going to do with all this space on my page now if I don't have a big cut file there, or some type of, big eye-catching element? So, which isn't a bad thing, I mean, because I enjoy them. So this was a little tricky to stick down because it was so delicate, but it worked out all right. And I think the last little bit here, if this ever comes to an end, I think, the dreaded clear acetate pieces, which some brands have the protective cover over it, the protective film, and other brands do not. This brand definitely does. I just took it off this piece, and I finally figured out that for this collection, it was actually on the back of the acetate thing, because some of the collections that you have that have these acetate pieces in them have the film on the top. But anyway, it took me a while to get those off, so I paused and did that. These hearts, I wanted them to stand out just a tiny bit more, so I outlined them in a pinkish pen that kind of matched the pink that was in, or I guess it was kind of red, that matched the red in the die cuts there. And then I decided I want one, this is so weird, I wanted one more little pop of yellow over to the right, because there's a lot of yellow in, not a lot, but other bits of yellow in the rest of the page. So I just added a little teeny tiny punched, kind of like a sunburst type of yellow thing. So these are the teeny tiniest alphas I have ever seen. I don't think I've used them before, and if I have, I only used a couple letters. I think they're from Kaisercraft. You can see how small they are. You probably can't even read what these letters are. The sticky had kind of come off of them, so as I'm trying to pull one off, like a whole bunch are coming off the sheet, and it ended up being a real a pain in the butt, because they were so tiny, and then some fell in the cracks of my cut files here. Oh my god, it was driving me nuts. So it's like I was kind of like playing like Operation here between the the spaces of my cut file, trying to get out these little tiny alphas that fell down the cracks. So, and I'm spelling middle, and I decided to put of the, so it's the middle of the lake. That's the title of the page. So there's my finished page, which you can see all the bright colors. It looks, my video doesn't capture the color as well as the photographs do, I think. And some close-ups. So this was super fun. I love this cut file. So I will put a link to it below. Be sure to go check out Rebecca's page too, and I hope to see you again. Hope you stop by for some more videos this week. Thanks so much for watching. Stay scrappy, friends.